This is a dog barking. That's Riley. I'm also Riley, Erin Riley. And this is Cabbage Hill animal-free fertilizer. I own a company called Hope Gardens. I've been organically gardening professionally for 14 years. Like, okay, we're gonna take this vegan fertilizer idea and run with it. I was like, all right, I gotta form a company. I was really like struggling to come up with a name. Did so much thinking, so much meditation, and I came up with the idea of stewards. So we're stewarding this. That'd be a great name. Got my trademark. So once they give you the trademark, that's when you get the TM at the end of the word. And that's when it becomes public, right? Now everyone else can start sniffing around. So I got this like cease and desist letter with like 6 lawyers signed onto it from a pesticide company in Texas. They own the trademark to the word steward. They don't have a business named Stewards. So it really didn't come up in research. At that point, I had had the trademark for a while. Everything was done. Like everything. Very discouraging. A lot has been hard to like turn that all around, right? Is to see it as opportunity. It's hard. I tried to see having to pick a new name as a challenge, an opportunity, like to build a story. So my story is Cabbage Hill. So Cabbage Hill is a neighborhood in my hometown of Lancaster, and it's these sloping hills. It's in downtown Lancaster, and my European ancestors lived up there, and because it was all Germans, Italians, and Irish, and Polish, a lot of cabbage was cooked. And it's very nutritious, easy to store vegetable, it's cheap, so a lot of cabbage, so they called the whole area Cabbage Hill. I thought, what a perfect name for my fertilizer company. It tips the hat to the place that I am from that has meant so much to me. So I would like to formally thank the Stewards Pesticide Company of Galveston, Texas, that's where it is, for helping me find the best name for my fertilizer company. That's what opportunity does. About how much farming and agriculture has changed in the last 50, 60 years. When they say factory farms, what they mean is a CAFO, and that is a confined animal feeding operation. These animals are fed meat meals. They no longer poop manure. They basically have the shits. All of that material ends up in these big lagoon, toxic liquid stuff that's left in the bottom of these pits. And they're selling, as fertilizer. That's a terrible idea. You are also eating the meals. Any vegetable you eat is being grown in these same recycled meals. How is that organic? Maybe that's all meals. I always felt like I had a story to tell. That was kind of eating at me, and I get emotional one day, and it was like, you need to tell people about this, what's going on. Okay, so after they slaughter these animals, the rest of the carcass goes to a renderer. The downer animals, which are diseased or killed animals. Unfortunately, so many of the animals get injured and become sick along the way that, they just die. So they'll be put into a renderer pile. It's like funny just to like cry about one animal that dies in a pile of animals as opposed to the billions that are just outright slaughtered. I guess that's like the last vestiges of humanity to care. Okay, so injured, diseased animals, or just animals maybe that have gotten caught up with some other dead animals, are then often left to perish and starve to death and suffocate under piles of dead animals. Animals that could live that are just inconvenient. Okay. Back to smiling. Okay, hold on. There's some idiom that you don't want to know how the sausage is made, but I think we do want to know how the sausage is made. Keeping consumers ill-informed keep us from nosing around.
I think it's time people realize what we do. We recycle a lot of stuff, put this down to a size that we can cook and we make usable products. It's meat and bone meal. And whoever buys it that wants to make it.
If you choose to look away, nobody would blame you. There it is, a disclaimer.
I want to do a disclaimer. My intention is not to shame anyone other than perhaps the organic fertilizer industry and organic certifiers. This is all about scale. It is said by the rendering industry that 50% of animals are inedible. It can be as high as 2/3, like cattle. 2/3 to 1/2 of the animal isn't even edible. No industry would produce that much waste and be like, well, it's going to be littering the street, rotting carcasses everywhere if you don't let us render these products. We're just doing a public service. The original recyclers, the original upcyclers, recyclers. I'm not going to accept that as recycling, and I'm not going to accept that as a green company. Not going to do it. So these animals go to the renderer. They can be all kinds of animals: horses, sheep, lambs, cows, pigs, chickens, dogs, cats, rabbits, any animal. The end result is organic fertilizer, dog food, biofuel, cosmetics. These rendering plants, when the trucks come in with all these different kinds of animals, they load the animals in, the hides are taken off, and they go into these very big rotating rotors, to basically just start taking the animal apart. They go through more grinding, then they're boiled. The grease is then separated, and then the rest of the animal just keep getting boiled down and then ground and dried. And that's your meal, your meat meal, your bone meal. The importance of this issue is very real and very intense. Like, the future isn't getting any more certain. More of us who know, the better. We figure out a way to grow food that doesn't kill the planet. Just teaching vegetable gardening, it felt very necessary, like intensely necessary. There's nothing more important than feeding our families. So, that's like pretty baseline. Yeah. Those animals that arrived on that truck were fed meals, because this stuff also becomes food for stock. They're going to take that meal and they're going to feed it back. So much rotation. Animal agriculture just keeps speeding it up, circling through this life cycle. Any vegetable you eat, farmer's market, grocery store, at your house, is being grown in these same recycled meals. Mad cow, that's an example of what can happen when we just keep recycling ecology in a way we don't understand. And bat guano, seabird guano, just whoever would think it's a good idea to use bat guano to grow food. I'm sorry. I think organics is a good idea. You're saying this is a good idea. I swear to everything. I think organic meant like the ideal. Let me just tell you. Tankage. Tankage is whatever is left over in the tank. Tankage. Organic. Tankage. Doesn't organic mean source? Wouldn't you have to know the source? Because you're centralizing farming, might as well just get it all in order. You know how there used to be butchers? Now you just don't see that so much anymore. Instead of being neighborhoods, they centralized butchering. They take the animals from the slaughterhouse to these centralized butchering factories. And these people have to work super long hours, chop, and just process this meat. Because they have that centralized, they can take all the inedible parts of the animal, take them straight to the renderers to be made into byproduct. It's like why when you go to the grocery store, all the meat's like in a tray covered in plastic, as they're butchering it somewhere else so that they can access those animal byproducts and get it down the line. That's where they collect a lot of this stuff. Predominantly the bone meal, and then the poultry meal is collected there. And then so you go to the supermarket, the meat is like woo, or as you can see, what happens when it's expired, it goes to the renderer, and they call this stuff waste. What would the world do if renderers stopped rendering? Big ag needs renderers, not citizens. I don't need renderers out here recycling for me. So that's, I think, predominantly where the bone meal comes from. I am asking you to think about a subject you've probably given no thought to whatsoever. Why am I needing to know so much about garden fertilizer? It turns out that all garden fertilizer is made of these really nasty animal byproducts. Organics means a lot to me. I've been teaching it, preaching it, to find out that things aren't like I thought they were. I'm pissed off about it. When you're certifying and regulating stuff, it's all about the terms. You have to agree on the term. Where I thought it would, trusted or ethical, like sort of the best. I don't know. Turns out it just means from life. They can say if it's an animal, it's organic. In my workshops with my students, I would encourage them to define organic. I think that's the most important thing. I want you to have a really active relationship with what organic means to you. I'll give you an example of what organic means to me. I want to eat right off the plant. I wouldn't feel good about spraying fish meal on my fruits and vegetables and then eating them off the vine. That's why I created a vegan fertilizer company. Most gardeners enjoy eating right off their plants, right out of the garden. You want it to be safe enough to do that. That's a definition of organic.